In the previous video, we discussed or we found that the infinite regress of causes in the reverse direction is impossible because this will take infinite time to reach y, but infinity does not get completed. Therefore, if we take an assumption that there is infinite regress of causes in the reverse direction, then z will not exist. But in reality, z exists. Therefore, the infinite regress of causes in the reverse direction is illogical or is absurd, which means that the finite regress of causes in the reverse direction is logical. Here, this will take finite time because there are finite number of causes. Finite number of causes have to occur, then z will come into existence, and finite number of causes can be paused or can be completed. Therefore, it is possible for z to exist if we assume in the reverse direction there is a finite series or finite causes. Now let's say that A is the first cause. A pushed this ball and this ball pushed this one, and it is continuous till x. And that is z moved y, this y moved x, and it leads to the movement of the ball x. And this person standing here gets the answer of the question who moved ball x logically. What I mean by logically is that the finite series of causes in the reverse direction makes sense. Now it logically follows that there should be an end to this series, and that end should be uncaused, or that should be the first cause, and that first cause we call that supreme being, or in religious terms it is the God. We call him the God. If we relate the same concept to the universe, for example, if someone says that the galaxy is caused by universe, the universe is caused by the multiverse, and that multiverse is caused by another multiverse, and it goes to infinite. But that is not possible. We just discussed that. So there should be a termination point. The chain must terminate in a necessary uncaused first cause. That is God. Now the question, who created the God, is absurd. This question is absurd because God is the first cause. God is the first cause, or God is the uncreated creator. It is like asking, what is after the end? There is nothing after end. End means end. This was all about the fallacy of infinite regress. The important point here is that this fallacy of infinite regress includes time. It includes time. But we have an argument which does not include time. That argument is called argument from dependency or argument from contingency. Now, let's discuss the types of existences. We have three types of existences. First of all, let us focus on this one, impossible existence. Impossible existence, for example, a triangle with four sides. It is like saying a triangle which is not a triangle. It means there is nothing like which is triangle and as well as which is not a triangle. So impossible existences does not mean anything. Does not mean anything. They are absurdities. Absurdities. They are meaningless. They does not exist. They have an impossibility to exist. So that is why these existences are called impossible existence. Now, the necessary existence means which exists by necessity, and contingent existence means which is dependent on other for their existence. Now, I have taken an example of a chain which is hanging in air. Through this example, we will reach to the conclusion that a necessary being should be there. A being which is independent of all and which explains everything. It must exist. It must exist by necessity. For example, we have a chain. See, this part of chain, for this part to be in air, it is dependent on this part. It is connected to this part, due to which it is in the IR. And this part is in IR due to this part. And this part is in IR due to this part. Which means this part is dependent on this part is dependent on this, and this part is dependent on this, and it goes to infinite. It is endless. There is no end. Remember, these infinite things are all contingent. They are all contingent. They are all contingent. Now, I will encircle this. 1 second. Now this circle contains the things which are contingent, or contains the existences which are contingent, or in other words we can say all the contingent existences are contained in this circle. Now first of all I'll write this: all the contingent existences are contained in this circle. Now the question arises that what support is there which explains the hanging of all these contingent existences? Because even if we take the contingent existences as infinite, they will not explain the hanging, because they as a whole do not become necessary existence, or do not become independent. If someone says that yes, they become independent, then he presupposes that there must be a necessary existence or independent existence, while the loop of the question explanation, or while the loop ends. Which loop? The loop in which a question is bound, that which explains the hanging, or what explains the hanging. Now for the refutation of the statement that these infinite contingent existence can become a necessary existence, can be refuted. It can be refuted by analyzing this. For example, if we have a table on which there are some books, let's say this is 1 book, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now analyze this book. A question comes on what thing this book is standing, or on what thing this book depends. This book depends on this book, and this book is dependent on this book, and this book is dependent on this, and this one is dependent on this, and the last book is dependent on the table. Now the table is also a contingent or a dependent thing, so there must be a support to table, or a thing on which the table is standing. So as a whole, if we see for this whole to be in the standing position, there must be an explanation. There must be a thing on which these all depend. So from this example, we conclude that the addition in the contingent existence does not lead to necessary, or the cumulative of the contingent existence does not nullify the requirement of further explanation. Like on which thing these all contingent existences depend. The thing on which these all existences depend is the explanation. Now coming back to our chain example, the question that what explains all these contingent existences is still there. Now if someone says that the another contingent existence explains these all, then he is wrong, because all the contingent existences are already in the circle, so it leads to the concept of necessary existence. Which is self-sufficient, which does not need further explanation, or which explains the existence of all these contingent existences. There must be an existence which has no further explanation, or which is independent, and we call that existence as necessary existence, which exists by necessity, which makes the existence of contingent existences as logical. Now we concluded that necessary existence is not made up of parts, because something which is made up of parts is dependent on arrangement and on its parts. For example, a chair or sun. Chair is made up of parts. It has 4 legs. It has the upper part. So if parts exist, then chair will exist. And in the similar way, the sun is also made up of parts, so it is contingent existence, or it is dependent existence, because it depends on its parts, or it depends on its arrangement, because those parts do not have will, they do not have knowledge. So there is a requirement of an external being which arranges the parts of the sun, and sun will come into existence. Therefore, sun is not independent, it is contingent. Hence, the necessary existence is not made up of parts. If it is made up of parts, then it is no longer necessary existence. It is contingent existence. And second point is that it exists by necessity, because removing it will lead to absurdity, logical absurdity. Because removing the necessary existence will make the contingent existences, or any existence which is contingent, as necessary, which becomes self-contradictory. And the third point is that it should be independent for its existence. In religious terms, we call this necessary existence as God. God is not made up of parts. He exists by necessity, and he is independent, and everything excluding him is dependent on him. Now relate this concept with the universe. Since the universe is made up of parts, so it is dependent. If someone says that there is a multiverse on which our universe depends, since multiverse are made up of parts, then they are also dependent. Therefore, there is a requirement of explanation for the multiverse. So the addition of the multiverse, or the things which are not necessary, that addition will not solve the problem. The existence which is necessary, only that will solve the problem. That will end this explanatory loop.